Slime Rancher is an incredibly chill time, probably being one of the most laid back experiences I've ever had in gaming. This game is pretty much as it says in the tin. You collect and farm slimes. I mean, there are more nuances to the experience than that, but it's pretty much all a new player needs to understand when playing this game for the first time. You go out and capture slimes out of that backpack of yours, bring them back, lock them up, and sell their excrement, dubbed plorts. These are sellable, used in certain secrets, and crafting. All things we'll talk about when we get there, but for now, this is the Far Far Range, a place a vast distance from Earth, inhabited by slimes with various properties, and the plorts of which also possess various properties, but for now that varying property is just a varying price on the market. A very realistic market, mind you. The more plorts you sell, the less valuable that plort is going to be, which makes sense. The more of something there is, the less valuable it becomes. You play a completely silent but named protagonist, something I didn't expect at first. However, the story goes, you took over a ranch from someone who had previously left it. On a planet so far from Earth that Beatrix was lights out for all that time. We're led to believe that living on this ranch is a fairly lonely experience, though the inclusion of teleporters does raise the question as to why pods were necessary. Maybe they have a range limit or something. The first port of call, fill that empty ranch with slimes. Our first new location is the Dry Reef, home to our first 4 slimes. These are our most basic, least difficult to keep. Getting one of each is important for later. This area also houses chickens and carrots, both of which are important to grab and start producing more of now. And doing so is incredibly simple. You merely place a garden on an empty plot, place the food in the empty slot, and that is your lot. This is just one of the things this game does to ensure it stays as casual as possible. Chickens are slightly more complicated, except not really. You just need to make sure you have both a hen and a rooster in order to make more chicken. Slimes are kept in coral and fed either through an auto feeder or being shot with the food they eat. Slimes only have one of 3 diets: meat, fruit, or veggies. Each slime does have their preferred type of their respective diet, but you don't have to abide by that. It's just feeding a slime their favorite food doubles the plort. This once again shows this game's largest strength: its simplicity. Getting hooked on this game is almost instant, as there is very little to come to terms with. This also means this game's barrier to entry is incredibly small. It's a perfect casual game that I have no problem recommending to people who don't play a lot of games. Selling plorts is a very simple and rewarding thing to do. From the sound effect to seeing that money increase in the bottom left, the ranch is full of plots of land that can either be filled with a coral, garden, coop, incinerator, pond, or silo. But, I mean, this game can't remain fun if farming's all you'll be doing. It's fun, don't get me wrong, but there definitely should be something supplementing it. This is where the game starts to open up and your grand adventure begins. The order in which you go about playing this game's content isn't completely linear. Some areas can only be accessed by first going through a different area, but nothing is telling you which of the 2 starting doors start open. Also, spoilers, this game is very exploration heavy. Those carrots you've been growing are about to come in handy. This is a Gordo slime, also known as how to progress through the rest of the game. Each region is home to a number of Gordo slimes, some of which drop keys. The first one you'll likely come across is this pink Gordo. There is also a tabby Gordo a little ways onward, but that one doesn't drop a key. On top of that, there's a phosphor Gordo that drops a key very close by, but I almost always start with this one. These guys require 50 pieces of food to burst, though this pink one only requires 30, most likely indicating this is the one the devs intended you to burst first. With the key you can open one of 2 doors like previously mentioned, one next to a pier and one in a cave. I always like to go for the pier one first, though for no other reason than that's what I've always done. Doing so will open up the moss blanket. This area has another locked door near the beginning, but I advise leaving it for the time being. This region is home to 3 new slimes, the Hunter, Honey, and Boom slime. All 3 are important for later, so make sure you grab a handful of each. Throughout your journey so far, you might have seen these H holograms lying about. These are messages left behind by the ranch's previous owner, Hobson Twilgers. For the most part, these messages serve as hints and tips for the area you're in, but some include more personal messages, like this one that talks about the moss blanket expanding, or this one that asks our main character whether they've fallen in love. The message goes on to mention how it apparently changes you entirely, perhaps a bit of foreshadowing as to why this guy doesn't run this ranch anymore. The area nearby is home to a Hunter Gordo. 50 chickens will be enough for it to... I use this key to open the cave door to have access to those slimes. Welcome to the Indigo Quarry. First of all, another message from our dear friend, this time talking about how he met someone who changed him. I guess we now understand the source of the love that changed him entirely. Unlocking the regions in the order I did made me enjoy this little story a little more, as the love comment could have been in regard to his job or exploring the far far range, with this message serving to add another layer and slowly start removing some of the ambiguity of this character. Anyway, moving on to the quarry, it possesses the last new slime we need for the time being, the rad slime. Moving further into the quarry will lead us to a rock gordo. Bursting it open will open a portal to an island that has crystal slimes. You don't really need one at the moment. All that is important is the crystal gordo, as it drops our next key. It's at this point I like to unlock the lab area on the ranch. It requires 10,000 new bucks. Here you can buy blueprints and fabricate new technology to make farming easier. There are also pumps, drills and apiaries, which are all required to gather crafting materials, as tech both needs plots and these additional crafting materials. At this point all I craft are teleporters, as it makes travelling a whole lot easier. This area also includes 4 new plots of land should you need them, though at this point I'm already combining slimes to save space. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Largo slimes are slimes that are the combination of 2 other slimes. Combining them is as easy as feeding a slime with a plot of another. Largos inherit the diets and characteristics of both slimes, so certain combinations are not advised. They drop a plot of each parent slime, so it's a great way of either standardizing food production or saving space. However, feeding a Largo with a 3rd plot makes a tar, an evil slime that can eat other slimes. To kill a tar, a player needs to splash it with water, and before we talk about the upgrades, the tar are a non-issue. The most damage one can do is kill all of your slimes. How easy they are to kill, how infrequently they appear naturally, and how little damage they do makes these guys not even the least bit threatening. Anyways, upgrades. They will slowly be unlocked as you progress and can be purchased from the terminal next to the house. They include more fuel, a jetpack and a water gun, just as 3 examples. You should prioritize fuel and storage, as it makes your life a whole lot easier. After this, I like to travel back to the moss blanket to open that door. I like to place a teleporter this side of the door, as you'll be moving things back and forth in this location, and it just helps out a ton. Unlock the door to enter the ancient ruin. Staring you down is a giant gate, unlocked by filling the slime statues with their respective plot. Once opened, you can step forth into the next area. We have quantum slimes to add to the mix. Grab them as soon as possible, as these little guys are super important and super annoying. Their unique little quirk is that they can teleport, and failure to splash them with water regularly will lead them to escaping. The next Gordo you want, or the next one I brutally mutilated, was the Boom Gordo, which gives you another key, used to open the door on the other side of the ruins. Oh look, H has something to say. He alludes to a greater purpose for these ruins and a people that could have built them. This message is also in past tense, with him saying that I'd visit this place often, heavily implying he made these messages on the way out, though the ending does clear this up. There is little puzzle solving to do with these doors and switches, though it is simple to navigate. Continuing through the ruins will lead you to this room, a room of 5 quantum slime statues. Once filled, it activates a portal, unlike the ones you used to create and have previously used. Using this one takes you to the Glass Desert, a barren, almost empty land, home to firestorms and slimes that create tornadoes. It's your job to power the fountains to access ancient water, apparently the only water that will grow these buds to restore life to the region, like regular water isn't good enough. Once the buds grow, the new slimes will start spawning. What happened to the landscape is anyone's guess, though we don't have anyone to provide their guess, so my take is that the individuals that created the portal here pillaged the land for all it's worth, as they would want to know what else these slimes are capable of, or something along those lines. The Big H's last message speculated that they were big fans of slime, but I still see a very tragic story to this landscape. We are introduced to our final slimes and resources. This region has 2 locked doors, however only one is necessary if all you want are the credits, the key to which can be obtained from a dervish Gordo near the teleporter you entered. Going through that locked door and continuing along its path will lead you here, a temple of sorts. A message from the Big H reveals his desire to explore these ruins and what they're capable of, so perhaps this landscape being barren is the result of man, just not who you'd expect. It's probably nothing along those lines, and this is just complete fan fiction, but I like to speculate these sort of things. The last message from H before we enter reveals the true purpose of these ruins, an engine for travel through space and time, hinting at the fact the Glass Desert may exist in a completely different place, or even time, from the rest of the range. H goes on to say how he spent ages figuring it out. However, this desire for adventure and discovery was in direct opposition to his newfound love, with him drawing parallels to the 2 doors that stand before you as they did him. You can only enter one, you can only pick one life. Does he continue his life of adventure by entering the time machine and go where no man ever has? Or does he finally leave his lonely life? Just as he makes you think he's going to remain a lone adventurer, he finally reveals in his last note that the choice he made was to remain with his love. He says his goodbyes and we never hear from him again. And I really can't believe he gave up time travel for some woman. Absolute sin. story doesn't have any bearing on the gameplay. I was hoping that I could use this space-time machine, but no. These notes might be ignored by most players, as there's no incentive to read them. However, I'm glad I did read them. It's quite a sweet little story that makes the far range less lonely and provides some context to the various places you visit. The love story turns what would have been glorified hints into genuine personal accounts from someone doing their best to help you as you travel the journey they did, which heavily encouraged me to read hints, which really aided me when I went through this game. Though the adventure is over, if you think that's all the game has to offer, then you're wrong. This is the section I'm calling things I did after the credits rolled that I wish I did beforehand. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? The Manor, the Lab, and the Retreat are 3 locations accessible by trading with their owner at a trading terminal. Oh yeah, this game was a trading terminal. These 3 places have a little mini game whereby you collect a key item and trade it for a reward. They have milestones that once hit will give you something more substantial that helps make farming easier. But being as though at this point I have no uses for my slimes, it's not as helpful. I suppose those who play well into the post game might benefit from using these late, but I'm more of a journey kind of guy. So make sure you access these locations a lot earlier than I did. It helps out a lot more. Finally, we have vaults, a hidden room accessed by a hidden H teleporter in the Moss Blanket, the Crystal Slime Island, and one other one that I haven't found yet. These rooms require the level 3 capsule opener thing, but inside the dozen or so pods inside these rooms are golden plorts, which sell for a ridiculous amount. You can get about 40k from each vault. The 7Z rewards program is a tier-based system that upon buying the next tier will give you chromas or items to help in the ranch. Chromas are used to change the color of the house, backpack, and ranch. And that is Slime Rancher. Just some closing thoughts. Slime Rancher is one of the most laid back and chilled experiences I've ever had in gaming. It's a chance for me to just sit back and play. It asks almost nothing of the player and just provides some enjoyable gameplay. It is surprisingly short for a farming sim type experience, but the adventure was still very worthwhile. The diverse list of unique slimes, the variety of locations, and the laid back nostalgic soundtrack elevating the journey.